Great Dane can last around 9 years before the diseases of ageing take their ultimate toll. Although it's the same species, a sausage dog can last more than twice as long. The secret to its longevity lies in its DNA.
The average lifespan of humans is about 80 years old in the Western world. In every country and continent, there are people who have exceptional longevity.
By uncovering the genetic secrets of animals and humans who live unusually long lives,
where you look at life, at the world,
scientists are finding extraordinary ways to wind back our cellular clocks, extend our lifespan, and even our fertility.
What you've done just by giving them a supplement is turned an older egg cell into a younger one.
That's exactly what's happened.
Trialling one of these ways myself,
It's the strangest feeling.
I rejuvenate my body and cut my own risk factors for disease in just 5 days.
In general, you responded better than most people and more like mice respond.
Right now, it's pretty common in my field of aging to be able to extend the lifespan of a mouse by 30 to 50%. It's only a question of can we translate that into humans?
Is it possible to live long and die young? It's a common Jewish blessing. May you live until 120. Here in New York, there's a lot of those blessings going on. It's home to one of the biggest communities of Ashkenazi Jews in the world.
Many of them live independently, their own homes.
Nurse Debbie Trock has been tracking down the oldest of them to take part in a study on super ages.
We've been looking at what we call centenarians that are 95 and older in the city here, their own apartments. In fact, right here, we have the apartment of Mr. Saul Rosenkrantz.
Is this Sal's house?
Yep, 15th floor.
Sol Rosenkrantz hasn't yet made it to 120.
I set him up differently every morning.
But by the way he's looking at 98, he may very well get there.
Come on in, please.
Hello,
Hi.
Sol is very close to his immediate family, who literally live in the next door apartment.
He's physically fit for his age, especially. His mind is intact. His faithful recall of his early years, immaculate, extraordinary.
I knew only one grandfather from both sets.
What do you think it is that keeps you young?
I believe it's a combination of things. The way you look at life, at the world, what you eat, how much you eat.
So what are your favourite foods?
I eat anything that's edible, that's fresh.
I think we've looked at over 600 participants in the centenarian study. What seems to be consistent is that many of them have not given up old habits.
While the diet and social surroundings of centenarians like Sol have been analysed as part of the Longevity Genes Project, results suggest they're not the determining factor for exceptionally long life.
We have a woman who smoked for 95 years. She died at the age of 110. Exercising is less than half of the people. Vegetarian is very rare. So those guys as a group didn't do something special. In fact, they lived long in spite of doing some wrong things.
Here at the Albert Einstein College of Medicine, researchers are digging deeper than lifestyle by unravelling the secrets in centenarians' DNA. They're looking for genetic variants that might protect against the diseases of ageing.
If you want to pass age of 80, we kind of know what to do. The doctors tell you. But those special people who get over the age of 100, they have something more.
Genetically, Ashkenazi Jews are already unique.
Big family gathering.
Yes.
Their ancestry can be traced back to a DNA bottleneck of just a few individuals. And they've continually married within their own community.
This is my wife, Sally,
Yeah?
and this is my sister-in-law.
So they ended up being similar more to each other than to the other white population around them. And this similarity is really very important for genetics, because when everything is more similar, whatever is different sticks out much, much better.
Instead of looking for genetic variants that protect against a single disease, the team at Albert Einstein are interested in those that protect against several.
We believe that if you delay aging, you delay all diseases, and we need to make sure that everybody understands what is the biology of aging and consequence.
In the super ages, they've already found several markers of interest.
Two of them are in the cholesterol metabolism. And everybody thinks of the good cholesterol as prevention of heart attacks. But actually we have as strong, if not stronger, data to indicate that the people with this genotype are protected against Alzheimer's and cognitive decline. So if it protects against cardiovascular disease and it protects against Alzheimer, we think it's probably in the mainstream of aging. Maybe it regulates the rate that we age.
Another interesting finding is a significant number of the super ages are short. This group tends to have a low level of insulin-like growth factor in their blood, a trait which has been found in a number of labs to extend life.
The growth hormone is a really fascinating story in the sense that dwarfs or dwarf models live longer. For example, small dogs live longer than the large dogs, and when we do genetic manipulation, or it happens that mice are born a dwarf, they all live longer. And the question for us is, does it apply to humans too? So the point is not only the discovery, but the fact that you can translate genetic discoveries into drug therapy.
The laboratory here at the Albert Einstein College of Medicine is just one of a number worldwide, pinning down the molecular pathways to longevity. For the rest of us who aren't super agers, they may open up the doorways to a long and healthy life.
At the University of New South Wales, they've already opened up one of those doorways. They've successfully reversed aspects of ageing in animals. Their target is a specific chemical in the body called NAD.
NAD is a central molecule for life, and without it, we're dead in 30 seconds.
Without NAD, our bodies can't make energy.
One of the major problems with aging is that we lose our ability to make energy through these little power packs called mitochondria, which exist in every cell. What we've discovered is that NAD levels control how many of these mitochondria you have in your cell. And what happens when we're young, we have high levels, and over time it goes down to about 50% of what we once had. And we think that the levels of NAD are critical for our body to be able to defend itself and heal itself and live a longer life.
By adding a supplement to the drinking water of older mice, researchers can artificially raise levels of NAD in cells. The effects are rapid and extraordinary.
So some of the things we've seen are an age reversal in the muscle within a week. And they can run almost twice as far without ever having exercised before. And other things we're seeing is protection from cancer, from chemotherapy, and even diabetes.
Something astounding happened to the ladies too.
So most of our experiments were done on male mice. They just happened to be simpler biochemically than females. But then we started studying female mice, and what we noticed was that the old mice that were given our molecule were able to reproduce for longer.
One of the most exciting experiments I've personally ever seen is happening just behind this doorway. By giving the supplement to older female mice in their drinking water, scientists in this lab have managed to reverse aging in egg cells.
Whoa. what we're looking at here is an egg cell from a young mouse. It's the equivalent of a 20-year-old. And what you see here in the blue is DNA, which is wrapped up in these chromosomes. And these chromosomes have to divide evenly between two cells. Now, what happens during old age? The strings which attach normally to the chromosomes, which are in blue, are completely dysfunctional and disorganized.
So it looks essentially like a broken egg. The DNA has gone everywhere.
And as a result, the offspring will either not have the correct number of chromosomes or won't even develop or become fertilized in the first place. And what we found is that by taking an old mouse and then feeding it with a supplement, we're able to completely normalize that.
So that's the equivalent of a how old-year-old woman?
55-year-old woman.
And how soon do you think you might be able to get that out among people? I mean, there's going to be very keen women out there to get this supplement.
We're working as hard as we can on that.
The postmenopausal mice only took the supplement for 3 weeks before their old egg cells became youthful once more.
Theoretically, it would be the same pill. This is the amazing thing. It's really hard to believe that the same pill that would protect you against Alzheimer's and cancer and heart disease would also reverse aging in ovaries and allow you to have children for longer.
While it sounds promising, human trials are yet to begin. One of the problems with developing drugs that target ageing is that until now they haven't been considered a legitimate way to fight disease. The tradition is to research and treat each one separately.
We have Institute for Diabetes and Kidney, and for the heart, lungs and blood, and for the cancer. And there are silos. I think the new revolution is for people to now realize what we have realized 20 years ago, that the major risk for any one of these diseases is aging. And when I say major risk, I'm talking about 1,000-fold risk when you go from 30 to 80 for heart disease, diabetes, Alzheimer and cancer.
Dr. Barzilai and his colleagues have broken new ground by getting FDA approval for the world's first clinical drug trial targeting ageing. But they're using a drug already on the market. It's called metformin.
The interesting thing about metformin that it's been around for 60 years. It's safe, it's also happens to be cheap. There's no drug company that is helping us.
Metformin is a common generic drug used to treat diabetes. But it's also been shown to make worms and mice live longer in the lab. Multiple studies suggest it could do the same in people.
Why do we think the drug is going to work? There are lots of evidence. When you give it to people with diabetes in a very controlled way, it prevents cardiovascular disease significantly in several studies. People who have diabetes and are treated with metformin have significantly less cancers.
Although most evidence comes from people with diabetes, one very large retrospective study reported diabetics on metformin lived longer on average than their healthy matched counterparts, even though the reverse was expected.
So we have evidence already that metformin not only prevents all those diseases, but delays the mortality.
In an ambitious randomised trial, the Albert Einstein College wants to give metformin to 3,000 elderly people who either have or are at risk of cancer, heart disease or dementia.
Taking the 750 milligrams in the morning once and then in the evening.
If it's successful in delaying diseases they don't yet have, the TAME trial, short for targeting ageing with metformin, will set a big precedent. As the college seeks funding for their trial, I'm keen to know if there's any other way. Personally, I've never been too enthusiastic about the idea of popping a pill for the rest of my life, especially when I feel healthy. So today, I'm leaving New York to meet another scientist who's developed a simple drug-free intervention that reaps amazing results. Professor Walter Longo is the director of the Longevity Institute at the University of Southern California. For more than a decade, he's been researching how growth can interfere with the body's ability to protect and repair itself.
If you're investing in growth and investing in reproduction, you don't put so much energy into protection.
The trade-off between growth and maintenance is again apparent when you look at dwarf versions of certain species. This mouse on the right is half the size of a regular mouse because it has what's known as Laron syndrome.
The little mice here have a mutation in the growth hormone receptor.
And so does this mice have a longer lifespan?
Yes, so these mice live about 40% longer than normal mice.
The dwarf mice are also incredibly healthy right into old age.
The fur look better, they're more active, they're cognitively also more robust. And so it was obvious to ask the question, well, what about people? Is it possible that you have yeast and flies and mice and they all have this, they're dwarf and they live so long and they're so healthy and people would be an exception? And it turns out that people were not an exception.
In a remote region of the mountains of Ecuador live a group of villagers with the same genetic mutation as the Laron mice.
They lack the growth hormone receptor. They're very small, about 3.5 feet tall.
Despite high rates of drinking, smoking and obesity, there hasn't been a single case of diabetes among those who have Laron syndrome. And there's next to no cancer.
Over 30, 35 years of observation, so far we've only seen one single case of cancer death. And the relatives live in the same houses, in the same villages. They get cancer like everybody else.
To find out why, Walter's team collected blood from the Laron syndrome villagers and added the serum to human cells growing in a petri dish. Then they exposed the cells to a chemical known to damage DNA.
And it was very interesting because if the cells were exposed to the blood from the Larons, the DNA was protected. But B, if the damage does occur, then you kill that cell.
The two effects, protection of healthy cells and destruction of cells with damaged DNA, are key weapons against disease. Because the villagers don't respond to growth hormone, many factors in their blood associated with growth are lowered.
They have a coordinated reduction in all of these genes pushing the body to reproduce and grow. And we think that the combination of them is what's so protective.
That's all great for Laron syndrome villagers, but what does it mean for us?
My name is Becky.
Hi, Becky.
Your blood draw.
Thank you.
Can I have your name, please?
Anja Taylor.
And your birthday.
Luckily, there's a simple way to manipulate those same factors in our blood.
I'm going to hold the needle a bit.
I'm getting baseline measurements before attempting a prolonged fast developed by Walter's labs. It's not a total abstinence from food, but instead what's known as a fasting mimicking diet. In this disturbingly light box is my food for 5 days.
So the fasting mimicking diet is a low protein, low essential amino acid, low sugar diet that is relatively high in fat, actually.
The aim of this mix is to lower growth signals in the body, like IGF-1, insulin and glucose, so my body goes into maintenance mode.
Enough protein is very important, but people are now eating 50%, 100%, 200-300% more than normal. And this is pushing the system to try to grow, but there's no growth. And so the consequence could be that you put an accelerator on all these systems and you just really push them to the limit and then they fail.
So I'm halfway through the first day. I'm feeling pretty good. I've got a little bit of a headache because I haven't had my morning coffee, but other than that, feeling okay. And lunch is a cup of soup and some crackers. I'm really hoping hibiscus tea grows on me.
because what happened in animal and human trials has been simply astonishing. Mice in Walter's lab began their first fast at middle age and continued twice a month till the end of their life. They extended their lives on average by 11%, but they also increased their health span dramatically.
We saw a reduction in inflammation, dermatitis. We saw a major reduction in tumors, about 50% lower, but also a postponement, and also the switching of the tumors from the more malignant type to more benign type. So it's really a triple effect. Then we also looked at cognitive function, and they were improved in every measure that we looked at, and they made less mistakes. So they were a lot sharper. They could learn and remember better. We also saw visceral fat loss. Another thing that was remarkable, there was no loss of muscle mass.
Another extraordinary effect, mice that periodically fasted had higher bone density by the end of their lives than those that didn't. That's something I try to focus on as the next meal is served.
I'm here at my friend Federico and Bemo's house, and it's lunch, day 2 of my fast, and they are having pizza, and I am having 4 olives.
There you go.
Thank you.
It takes about 2 days for the body to begin to fully turn into this alternative mode. Your entire body starts switching from utilizing glucose and other nutrients to breaking down fats. The good news for the people that want to lose weight, it turns out that instead of taking the subcutaneous fat, it goes mostly after the visceral fat, so abdominal fat.
It's good news that my brain is currently chewing up fat from my gut, but it's never functioned this way before. The feeling is a little surreal. It's not that I can't think straight, but everything feels, well, a bit spacey.
Midday, day 4. It's the strangest feeling. I feel like I have nothing to power my legs. Like there's no fuel in my muscles. I feel like lead.
A 3-hour hike is not on the recommended list of activities. I should be taking it easy, but then all I do is think of food. Despite endless temptations, I do make it to the end of the fasting diet, and after my final blood tests, I head back to Walter to get my results.
How are you?
Good. I did it.
Yeah, good. And how was it?
It was pretty easy, actually. I was surprised at how easy it was. I mean, I felt hungry and I had a bit of a mild headache all the way through.
Okay, but this was the first time you did it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so the first time is usually much harder for almost everybody. So it gets easier the second time, and it gets much easier the third time you do it.
It didn't feel like a fast, so
Yeah,
I'm keen to see if I have actually any results.
Yeah, there are results. So let me show you some of them pretty dramatic, actually. In general, you responded better than most people, and more like mice respond.
Along with a nearly 20% drop in my blood glucose, my insulin plummeted to nearly 0, lowering my risk factors for diabetes and cardiovascular disease. And because my diet contained almost no protein, my insulin-like growth factor, the same one that was low in the Laron syndrome villages, dropped by 30%.
To start with, you had low levels of IGF-1. If you put all the studies together, this would suggest that you should be highly protected against a variety of age-related conditions.
But to me, the most interesting result is the fact that 1/3 of my white blood cells have been wiped out.
Which is a major reduction. There's more what we see in the mice. In people, on average, we don't see as much response.
It sounds alarming, and my studies indicate it's not just cells in my immune system that died off during the fast, but lots of cells in my organs as well. But they're ones I didn't really want anyway.
We suspect there are 2 major things that happen. One is the killing of a lot of bad cells, but also a lot of not so bad cells, but they have been old. So you fast, and every day of the fasting, the organs are getting a little bit smaller, and they're getting rid of cells because they have to save energy. Then eventually, when you refeed, these organs and cell systems, they have to return to normal. And that's really a remarkable way to replace and rejuvenate almost every component of the body.
The fast primed my stem cells for action. So when I finally get to eat normally again, they get busy creating healthy young new cells to replace the ones I lost.
It doesn't mean that you're replacing 100% of it. It could be even 5%. You can see how if you did it 3 or 4 times a year, this could have a very beneficial effect. And this is true for the liver, it's true for the blood system, and many other systems in the body.
Fasting around once every 3 months has been shown in people to lower risk factors for disease over the long term.
What we observed was whether it was a risk factor for cancer or inflammatory markers and risk factors for cardiovascular diseases or a risk factor for diabetes, we saw that the people that had the biggest problem at baseline, so when they started, had the biggest effect. And so suggesting that it's more regeneration and rejuvenation of multiple systems, leading to the cells working more like when you were younger.
The rejuvenation of cells is really the crux of what anti-aging is all about. All this research gives me enormous optimism. Not because I want to live forever, but the notion that I may be one of the lucky ones who avoid disease and die one day quietly in my sleep is now a lot more than just a faint hope.
When you ask non-elderly people what disturbs them in aging, is really the big suffering and all those diseases and spending time in hospitals and other things. So everybody will understand that aging can be healthy aging. It's not science fiction, it's science now.
For details on the various studies featured in this program, and to find out more about the effects of Professor Longo's diet on cancer and multiple sclerosis, visit the Catalyst website.